Picture the kind of scene the evidence allows. It is the 11th century at Lewes Priory in southern England. A monk leaves the open dormitory, crosses toward the toilet block, and finds 10 cubicles built above a sewer. No doors seem to have been fitted. One place is empty, directly beside another brother. Now shift north to a Cistercian abbey such as Roche. A monk entering the latrine is expected to pull his hood across his face, fold his hands, and keep his long cowl touching the floor. These men were taught to control their eyes, voices, movements, and bodies. So why did their monasteries place them side by side at the moment they most wanted to disappear? Today, you enter a bathroom, turn a lock, and hear the small click that tells the rest of the building to stay outside. You can adjust your clothes and stop performing for everyone around you. The room becomes yours. Now remove the lock. Remove the full-height walls. Put several seats in one long row, then connect that room directly to the place where dozens of men sleep. That was not every medieval toilet or every monk's experience, but in many large English monasteries, bodily needs were organized around the community, just like prayer, meals, and sleep. The buildings reveal how carefully monks tried to make sharing bearable. Start with Lewes. The first toilet block there had 10 cubicles. Each opening fed into a chute, and the chutes emptied into a sewer below. 3 large windows brought in light and ventilation. This was not a random bench thrown into a dark corner. It was planned architecture attached to the monk's daily route. Then the community grew. In the second half of the 12th century, Lewes built a much larger reredorter, the monastic name for a toilet block. It measured roughly 51 meters long and contained at least 59 cubicles. For a time, the priory may have held around 100 monks. Picture that building before a service. Sandaled feet cross the bridge from the dormitory. Cowls brush stone walls. One monk enters while another leaves. 59 places mean less waiting, but they also turn an intimate act into organized traffic. The monastery had solved waste removal at impressive scale. It had not given each man a private room. Look beneath the seats and the logic becomes clearer. At Roche Abbey in Yorkshire, the monk's latrine stood over a stream. A line of removable wooden seats ran along the wall with a screen between one place and the next. Waste dropped into the water below and was carried away from the building. Do not picture a modern toilet bowl. No handle released clean water around an individual seat. The entire structure worked as one system. One building, one channel, many bodies. That arrangement saved space and used the landscape. Instead of managing dozens of separate pits, the community placed its seats above moving water. Now look at what the monk could see. Stone wall in front, wooden partition at his side, sandals below the screen, the edge of another cowl. He was separated, but not alone. And here is the detail that changes the scene. Roche used 2 doors, one for entering and one for leaving, creating one-way traffic. The monastery did not ignore the awkward situation. It choreographed every movement through it. The same was true of the body. Rules associated with Cistercian houses expected a brother to cover his face with his hood, fold his hands in front of himself, and make sure his cowl reached the floor. The screen hid part of him. His clothing hid more. The ritual asked each man to behave as though the others were not there. Try that in your own mind. You cannot lock the room, so you pull fabric across your face. You cannot stop someone sitting a few feet away, so both of you agree not to look. Your privacy exists only while the other man cooperates. The assumption that monks simply did not care about embarrassment now collapses. A community does not create screens, traffic rules, and instructions for covering the body unless exposure matters. But those instructions are not security camera footage. They tell us what the institution wanted, not what every monk did on every visit. We cannot recover the sideways glance, the impatient cough, the brother who stayed too long, or the moment someone entered before another man was ready. What survives is the response to those possibilities. The monastery turned embarrassment into discipline. Follow the route, cover yourself, control your gaze, and respect a boundary no door could enforce. And that boundary changed depending on who you were. At Roche, monks, lay brothers, and guests had separate latrine blocks attached to the areas assigned to each group. A visitor did not wander into the monk's dormitory toilet. A lay brother did not share every routine with the men of the cloister. Walk through the complex and you crossed social lines before reaching a seat. Monks here, lay brothers there, guests in another block. Yet once you entered the correct building, status stopped at the row. The institution separated groups more effectively than individuals. It controlled who sat near you, but it did not guarantee that no one sat near you. That distinction leads to the real turning point. Medieval builders knew how to create a private latrine. At Dover Castle, Henry II had a garderobe connected to his principal bedchamber. He could leave his bed, step into a small adjoining space, and use a toilet built around one royal occupant. So the missing door in a monastery was not proof that medieval people had never imagined solitude. The technology existed. The question was who received enough space, stone, timber, drainage, and authority to claim it. A king's chamber was organized around the king. A monastery was organized around the community. Give every monk an enclosed toilet and you need more walls, passages, drains, maintenance, and space. The communal reredorter served dozens through one route because the building treated them as a group. This is where a strange toilet becomes a story about power. A private door gives one person control over who may enter, who must wait, and how long the room belongs to him. Henry could have that control built beside his bed. Most monks were expected to manufacture it from cloth, screens, and mutual restraint. Now return to the monastery after dark. At Lewes, the monks slept in their clothes on straw mattresses, ready to rise for services during the night. A lamp remained burning in the open dormitory, and a bridge connected that shared sleeping space to the toilet block. Imagine waking before dawn. The room is cold. Other bodies shift in the half-light. You cross the bridge, hoping the reredorter is empty, but another monk can follow at any moment. Even there, the community's supervision could reach you. Monastic constitutions describe a custom in some Benedictine houses. Before matins, a responsible monk checked the dormitory and latrine to make sure no brother remained in bed or had fallen asleep on the privy. We cannot place that exact inspection at Lewes, but the rule shows how little of monastic life sat completely outside observation. The latrine was not a private escape from the timetable. It was another room inside it. Now comes the part nobody talks about. The rules reveal a conflict the building could not solve. If brothers had to cover their faces, recognition mattered. If clothing had to reach the floor, exposure mattered. If traffic needed 2 doors, encounters mattered. If an inspector might search the privy before matins, absence from the group mattered. The documents do not prove perfect obedience. They prove concern. For the monk on the seat, that difference was immediate. A wooden screen could block a torso, but not footsteps. A hood could hide a face, but not a voice. Running water could carry away waste, but not sound, smell, or the knowledge that another person was close enough to reach. Privacy was not absent. It was incomplete, fragile, and shared. Then in some abbeys, the walls began to close. At Rievaulx Abbey, individual closets may have been inserted into the latrine during the 14th century to provide greater privacy. Similar possibilities appear at other Cistercian sites. The cautious word may matters because surviving walls cannot give us a perfect construction diary. Still, the change makes sense beside the earlier system. First, a screen marks the edge of a body. Later, a more enclosed compartment gives that edge physical weight. Do not imagine a modern bathroom appearing overnight. A wooden closet could block the man beside you while sound, smell, movement, and supervision still pass through. Nor did every monastery rebuild together. But the direction is visible. The earliest design asked each monk to carry privacy on his body, hood forward, hands folded, cowl down. Later partitions could transfer part of that work to timber and walls. The monastery remained communal. The men still slept, prayed, ate, and moved under a shared rule. Yet the building could now admit something the older row had forced them to manage socially. One body sometimes needed a boundary of its own. Return one last time to the empty place between 2 monks. Why did medieval monks so often use the toilet beside other men? Not because they lacked shame, and not because builders were incapable of making a door. Large monasteries were designed to move communities through the same needs efficiently. One dormitory, one schedule, one drainage route, one long row of seats. Modesty survived inside that system, but at first it survived as a performance. One man lowered his eyes, another pulled his hood forward. Both trusted the screen, restraint, and each other. A king could command a private room. A monk usually had to borrow privacy from the discipline of the man beside him. That is what the communal latrine reveals. The strangest part was never the hole in the bench. It was the invisible door every brother was expected to close without touching a lock.